So your genes are all running amok.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Curiosity Class. Today, I am joined by Martin Munzer. He is the founder of LeapXX, and we're going to get into what that is and all the reasons it's a cool company here shortly. So, Martin, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to having our call and seeing if your listeners are interested in what I have to say.
100%. So walk us through it. I mean, you've had a very storied life, but how did you get started? How did you find yourself in the shoes that you're in now?
Geez, I'm an old dog, so I've been around for a while. There's a lot of history, but let me get to I've been into like the alternative health thing for a long, long time because I ran into some personal issues way back when I was in my early 20s. And allopathic medicine had nothing for me. I mean, I went one doctor, one professor to the other, nothing worked. And then somebody recommended a homeopathic. Actually, it was a homeopath. And if you'd ask me today as an engineer, what do I think of homeopathy? I'd say, hey, there's nothing in there, fella. But there is. And this was something that actually cured me. And since then, I've been very skeptical about the status quo. And so I've been investigating things. I was a CEO of a small public company that was a pioneer in the consumer genetics world. And, basically, I've been fighting the big windmills of, the industries. And the industries are those that make money from whatever it is and try to squash anything else. And if they're really big, they're very powerful. And I'm up against big food and big pharma, and, they don't like what I'm doing, and they're always trying to run interference. So that's kind of the story of my previous job, which was 13 years at Gene Labs. And also now, I think 16 years at Evolutionary Leap Technologies, which is LeapXX.
That's amazing. And what was the impetus for starting LeapXX? Like, what was the
Well,
I'm sure you just explained it a little bit, but like, what was the final straw that you're like, okay, I got to go do this?
well, it was kind of out of necessity. Most of the time, things come out of necessity. And I started the company after I had to shut down Gene Labs. Really, it was a collusion between industry and the FDA. They tricked me into a conference. I spoke about what we were going to offer, and they told us we were diagnosing and prescribing, practicing medicine without license, and they shut me down. Um, Without any real cause, I could have fought it, but who has the millions of dollars to fight these companies? So I started Evolutionary Leap Technologies because with the genetics world, we had something that was pretty much a leap over at that time the status quo. And this company was formed in order to help companies that were in the similar or a type of scenario where they're up against an entrenched technology, which an industry wants to husband the best they can. And unfortunately, they resort to really extreme measures. And, it's an ugly world when it comes to money. And that's what these guys do is they use every means to kill you. So that they can make a lot of money. So,
Sure.
and in doing that, I was consulting a variety of companies, very exciting technologies, water purification, and next generation vaccine technology with a patch instead of the injection, and very safe, reduce the use of the mercury preservative that's in there and the adjuvant, which is aluminum based, which are usually the problems in vaccines these days. Well, now it's, these genetically engineered vaccines, which we don't want to talk about. But at the end, while I was doing this consulting work, my mom, who was 85, 86 at the time, started losing her memory and falling all the time. And she was a very vibrant person up to that point. And being the good son that I am, I went to all the doctors. They all said, she's 86. She's had a good life. Let her go.
Mm.
And, knowing what that entailed, and having a lot of love for my mom, I started going back to the basics. I mean, I have a master's in engineering, and I look at things differently because of that. That was quite an extensive training. And so I usually put that to work in anything that I am confronted with. And so what I did is, at first I had said, well, she's falling all the time. She needs to get stronger. Let's get some protein into her. Okay. And we did all these protein drinks and everything. And nothing really worked. All it did was make her fat. And uh, I, in the meantime, I was looking at amino acids. I had been, familiar with, all the building blocks of the human body, and the number one nutrient, real nutrient. I mean, we do need air, oxygen to live. We need water in order to survive. But the real nutrient behind that is protein. Protein is very misunderstood. So one protein is never like the other, and none of them are ideal for the human metabolism. They're ideal for the life form that gives you that protein, but that's about it. Okay,
Wait,
so
can you explain the difference between what those two mean? I didn't
well,
understand.
what we get from protein are amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of all life forms that we know. Uh, Now, when you are consuming protein, whether it's beef from a cow or if it's chicken or fish or whatever, or plants, you're basically getting the protein makeup that is made for that life form. Okay, so if it's a fish, it has amino acids that because the amino acids make everything in the life form. Okay, so for a plant, it would be to make roots and fruits or vegetables or leaves, etc. For a chicken, it would be to make feathers and beaks and all the things that make a chicken unique. And when it comes to cattle or other animals, it's whatever they need, whether to make hoofs or five stomachs or whatever the requirement is. Now, when we eat the protein, of which we need the essential amino acids, so the essential amino acids are found in most everything. The difference is the ratio. Okay, so the ratios are different. What they need, whether they need more leucine or more. There's 9 essential amino acids, and the human body makes another 12 non-essential amino acids, which are what we need specifically for humans.
Okay.
So now, when we digest any given protein source, we use anywhere between 30-50%, sometimes more, of the energy that's in that protein source just to digest it. Okay, digesting protein is a tough thing. That's why our stomach makes very strong acid. If you were to take a sample of that and put it on a piece of wood, it'll burn a little hole in it
Right.
because the hydrochloric acid is a very powerful, especially if you have the right pH. It's a very powerful thing. So that's the first stage really starts in your mouth with enzymes, etc. But, people really don't chew that much anymore, especially with processed foods. So it goes right in the stomach. The stomach hydrolyzes it or combines it with the hydrochloric acid. And the acid, if you put, a piece of meat into a beaker with hydrochloric acid, you'll see what it does to it. It just, digests it, it breaks it down.
Hmm.
And then once that is completed, it goes into the small intestine, which neutralizes the acid, and now it starts introducing bile and enzymes, all the enzymes that are needed to continue breaking down what's in that food product. So we're really highly evolved life form, not to supersede other ones. They all amaze me. But we're very unique because we have certain characteristics that the other life forms don't have. Well, they may have some form of cognicity or cognitive thinking capabilities, but they're lacking, the instruments to, make things and do more with what they have. Uh, and I don't want to diminish the intellect of animals or other life forms, but we certainly have an evolved one that's very unique. So uh, once we digest this food that we get from other life forms, uh, we break it down and absorb what we need, but there's also all the stuff that we don't need. So there's all the non-essential amino acids that were made by the host, which are of absolutely no value to us, and we have to detoxify. So in this modern day, uh, we have to detoxify more than just that. We have to detoxify all the industrial production processes that introduced all kinds of garbage into the food, which is what's probably a major factor in, most debilitating diseases that are appearing, even some that are just annoyances, like all the rashes that people are getting, autoimmune reactions, allergies, things like that. I think a lot of it is caused by the body being overwhelmed in processing and detoxifying these substances, and at some point, you hit a tipping point, and the stuff starts to accumulate in your body. You can't get rid of it, and it makes you sick.
Hmm.
So, you know, uh, what I did was I wasn't even thinking of that when I developed the formula. What I was thinking of was coming up with something that's much more bioavailable, meaning pre-digested and in the raw, pure form. Which, when you buy amino acids commercially for production of supplements like I make, they're 95 to 99% pure, which is better than anything else you can get out there, because things are all full of impurities these days. So uh, once I started giving my mother the first generations of amino acid formulations that I had, uh, I noticed that she really started getting stronger within a short time. I mean, it took only 6 to 8 weeks before she didn't need any help getting up out of a chair anymore. And she heard the doorbell ring and she'd go running to open up the door. Um,
So, Martin, can I pause you for 1 second? So,
sure.
was the thought process, you saw your mom was aging, and you said, okay, you need to get stronger. So, think what does everyone think if you need to get stronger? Protein, right? But
Exactly.
your thought process was, okay, but what's behind the protein? Protein's different. Like the base, like underneath that is actually amino acids. So, what if I could give her the amino acids that her body would be able to absorb without the waste and detoxifying of other amino acids or other protein sources? Is that right?
Well, all the goodies came later, So
Okay.
the first thing I was trying to do is just, try to get nutrition into her that would be absorbed and processed efficiently.
Okay.
Engineers are always looking for efficiency and optimization, and I thought, let's circumvent the digestive process, which it usually is diminished in age. So you do lose digestive efficiency, especially, if people take antacids or stuff like that. That'll kill your stomach acid. So the stuff goes into your small intestine undigested or partially digested. And then you're not getting the benefit of the nutrients that are in whatever you've eaten.
Got it.
So
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
that was the line of thought. So the first part that I developed was really the amino acid or the macronutrient side. Uh, and then came the micronutrients, because I was involved in genetics for 13 years. I mentioned, I think I was one of the pioneers in the direct to consumer genetics industry. And we had a lot of biotech patents related to diagnostics and therapeutics. And at the end, we had to make money. And so I said, let's take our knowledge and turn it into a predictive genetic test that can be marketed to people to try to help them sidestep predispositions that they have, et cetera. And one of the areas that really interested me in genetics was epigenetics. And this was an area that was really very unstudied at the time. I mean, this was back in the late 90s, early 2000. Uh, and, epigenetics relates to the chemical substances in and around the genes that regulate how they perform. So we came onto this, or I came onto it, when we were looking at twin studies, identical twins, and they have the identical chromosomes, same one from
Hmm.
mom, same one from dad. And so they should have the same kind of process in their, lifetime, that they get certain debilitating things and others not. They should get the same stuff, right? Well, no, we found, looking at those twin studies, some would get a debilitating disease and others wouldn't. And how was that possible? Well, it's in the genes that are being regulated that cause certain things. So usually these are what are called coding genes. They make something, they're responsible for something in the body. And it turns out that there are certain substances, chemicals that help to regulate them. Okay, so they basically, to make it simple, are an on and off switch, but they're actually modulating a lot of the time. And so, based on what your current needs are, they will modulate so that the gene produces more or less. And what happens in aging is that the epigenetic coding, which is there from, from basically when you're born, you have, let's say, 100% epigenetic regulation. That's theoretical, of course. And as you age, you lose that, so that by the age of 70, 80, 90, you've lost 90% of your epigenetic regulation. So your genes are all running amok. All right. Now, yes, it may take several years for whatever is being dysregulated to cause some downstream reaction. But uh, needless to say, these are things that we can help to alleviate. And that's again, so with the protein equivalent, I was looking to give the body what it needs. And basically protein delivers the amino acids that the body uses to make hormones and enzymes and peptides. And, everything in the body is practically made from amino acids, almost everything in the body. So if you can provide those building blocks in a form that's very efficient and ideal for humans, people will flourish. Okay. Uh, and the same thing goes with the epigenetic story. Once you provide the building blocks that are essential for for a natural epigenetic regulation, and there are substances. For example, like I've been into the alternative world now for, I guess, almost 50 years or more, and you know, I'm kind of a botanist on the side. I work with a lot of botanicals. I think they're great. What nature's given us is phenomenal. And my favorite botanicals, when I did a very sophisticated analysis back, I guess it was over 17 years ago or 16 years ago, I found that my favorites that I knew worked, because there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't work or it needs something else to work. But the ones that I knew worked turned out to be the best epigenetic regulators. Okay. For
Can you give an
example,
example?
yeah, curcumin, which is an extract from turmeric, is an epigenetic regulator. It helps downregulate inflammation markers and things like that. Uh, it does a lot of things we don't, listen, the industry has pissed away so much money, okay, that they get from us, the taxpayers, through grants, and they do all these studies and all this stuff, and they make a ton of money from us. Uh, but all they look at are substances they can patent. So they take
Mm,
one singular molecule and configure it to do one singular thing, And that's the substance of the study that then becomes a drug. Okay, so that's all they focus on.
And it's
For
hard
me,
to
what the
patent turmeric.
no, you can't. And that's the issue with the industry. They try to destroy anything, the credibility of anything that is not patentable, that is readily available to people, especially if it's part of your food or whatever, you know. Yeah, these botanicals that I have, there's curcuminoids I use a lot. I have 4 patented forms or proprietary forms of turmeric extracts, um, and those are really good. They do all kinds of fabulous stuff, and we haven't even figured out all the stuff that it does. It actually
So
was used endemically in the populations in India and et cetera because they're in a subtropical climate, and they learned they were using turmeric as a dye, and they learned that somehow it's a preservative. They started cooking with it, and it preserved whatever the food they made, so that they could save it for the next day. And so it's a great preservative. That's how it became endemic. And when you looked at those populations, that's how I came up with a lot of the botanicals that I was using. I
wow.
interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, well, I was making a joke that you couldn't patent turmeric, but then you said that you had four component of turmerics that were
Yeah.
patented. So that I was wrong. How
I'll
did
explain to you how. So these are patents that are not patents on the plant itself or on
sure?
the substances found in the plants. These are patents on how the plant is processed to arrive at the certain, you know, type. Like one of the forms of curcumin that I use is called theracumin, comes from Japan. Instead of costing a few bucks a kilo, it costs $400 or $500 a kilo, and it's been specially processed, so it's very highly absorbable. Okay, and that's the problem with turmeric is that it's very difficult to absorb when you eat turmeric straight or have it in a curry dish. You absorb maybe 2-3% of it.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's very inefficient. You can't eat enough to supply what the body really needs to affect what it does. So that's how these companies have come up. There's one that's a water soluble extract of turmeric, which doesn't take the curcuminoids, which need to be extracted with more harsher measures, but it takes out everything else. So I always look at plants as something that are really special, and I try to use everything that's in the plant. Okay, because plants will have hundreds or thousands of active components, and actually, most of them not only just are really good and work, but they work in concert. So you by taking just one, you only get part of the equation. If you
Hmm.
take a more full spectrum extract, you end up with a lot more benefits that can be attributed to that plant.
Can I ask a question about the specifically the turmeric product you were talking about? So on the one hand, it sounds like you want to tend to avoid highly processed foods. I feel like that's pretty. Everyone will like nod their head, like, yeah, that don't eat those. But then on the other hand, it makes sense what you're saying that for certain ingredients like turmeric, it actually is really hard for your body for you to eat enough to get the benefits of it. So in this case, you did this highly processed process to make this product to allow yourself to be able to absorb the amount of turmeric that your body can actually use. So how do you balance the two? Because I
Yeah, that's
understand
a
that not all. I'll
question.
Yeah,
Very
go for it.
good question. Look, in essence, there's a lot of misnomers in this world, not just the thing about the protein that not all proteins are alike, but also the issue of the processed foods. What we're talking about a processed food is an industrial produced uh, product that has extended shelf life, that has all the different characteristics that are necessary for the commercial product to be viable.
Hmm.
Okay. In essence, the processing is still in the food that you eat. Okay, so you've got the preservatives in there, you've got all the colors and dyes and flavorants and all the stuff that they put in there, plus all the garbage that comes along with the food these days.
Hmm.
So when you're doing an extract, the substance that was used to extract certain components of the plant are not supposed to be present anymore after the extract is completed. There may be small trace amounts of it, but really insignificant. So you are getting the pure substance, but it's an isolated part of the plant, not everything. It's certain aspects of it. And there's companies that have focused on extracting just the curcuminoids. There's an Indian company called Sabinsa. They have two of the patented products that I use. Um, and they're full spectrum, just the curcuminoids. And like I said, curcuminoids are not the only actives in the turmeric plant, and
Hmm.
that's why I use termicin. Termicin is another proprietary product, which is the water extract. So with I make tinctures, I make all kinds of things out of botanicals because they have great properties uh, and antimicrobial primarily. But there's other properties that are also very good that are in plants. And when you extract and you want a certain type of components that are in the plant, you can make a tea out of it, which is, a water extract. You can make an alcoholic extract, and there's other types of extracts nowadays. There's CO2 extracts that will extract certain components or the whole thing. These are the technologies that have evolved to be able to extract certain substances out of, the botanicals and tinctures have been around for hundreds of years.
Got it. Got it.
So
Got
we've
it.
come up with those. They have, some that are done with glycol, which is a sugar, and others with alcohol and ethanol and all kinds of different types. Some are extracted, unfortunately, with acetone, which is very aggressive. I stay away from those,
Hmm.
um, because any small residual is really not a good thing. In essence, there's a different way of skinning the cat to get to the substance that you're looking at.
And so I feel like with nutrition and kind of with the human body in general, there's so much knowledge that you have to have, right? But so knowing everything that you've learned over your career, over your life, what do you personally eat in a day? Like, what does a typical Wednesday look like? What is everything you consume?
All right. Well, I'm very very different in the sense. So I developed this formula, and it has the amino acids. It has medium chain triglycerides, which are fats from coconut. Very high concentrated, 70% coconut fat. Then it has complex carbohydrates. It has the botanicals in there, which there's a host of those. And it has micronutrients, especially those that are missing in the modern diet that are critical for metabolizing and making the amino acids that the human body makes, and to make all the substances that are made from amino acids, to make the cells, to make the all the different components. So those I put in there because they're essential to the fundamentals. Okay, I couldn't throw in the kitchen sink. I mean, I could have, but I'm already at the over 50 ingredients, active ingredients. And, the problem with formulations like this is that, yeah, you could do a clinical study. I wanted to do one, 14 years ago because I saw what this formula did for my mom, and it kind of blew me away. And then I tried it with a PhD gerontologist who gave it to her clients, and everybody had different benefits. And so I was amazed by that. I mean, amazed, look, I was amazed by the results.
Mhm.
I expected it to happen. I just didn't expect it that way. Uh, so when I found all these things going on, I wanted to do a big study on it. But the problem with studies are this. So in the meantime, I've evolved my product. It's been on the market for over 13 years. So there's, 4 different iterations at least, and I've got some in my private member group that go beyond that. Every time you change something, the study is no longer valid. It doesn't apply. So, for example, even though, uh, let's say, curcumin is known to reduce inflammation, um, I can't make that claim about my product because it's a mix of all kinds of ingredients. And what the alleged scientific community says is that, well, we don't know if that's going to happen when you do it, mix it up with all that other stuff. By
Mhm.
itself, it does do that. Okay. But this has been a thing that started pretty much at the beginning of the last century where, uh, you know, uh, the drug companies went away from the natural medicine and focused on these single molecule, uh, patentable substances that they could market for a huge margin. And what they did is, in the process, they became more and more aggressive about, basically, look. Uh, I looked at back in the '90s. I looked at all the money at that time. It went towards the scientific journals that report on studies and discoveries and things like that. And this study was done by, I think it was Duke University and the University of Florida. I may be wrong, but my memory serves me right. And they found that those publications that received grants or donations or money, advertising funds from big pharma, surprisingly, never said anything good about anything natural that was discovered or revealed. Okay.
Funny how
And
that
those
works.
yeah, and those that didn't take the money, they were actually quite favorable. Um,
Sure.
those have quickly disappeared, and we now see, all this advertising on TV, and listen to the small print at the end. They say, well, if
Right,
you've
the
got
really
this
fast
or
one.
that,
You might
don't take.
die, but
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wait,
So
but
it,
so
it's not geared to sell product; it's geared to control the media.
sure. So
Okay.
so I want to get back to your daily diet. So what I'm assuming you take your own products presumably. So
I take
w-
my own product. So look, I used to be a standard guy, 3 meals a day, type of thing. And, in my 40s, I was very active, but, in the afternoons, I need a strong cup of coffee to keep me going. If I was down in Miami, I'd have a cup of or two of Cuban coffee. That'll really zip you up. Uh, and, I was noticing all the things that come with age, and it really starts in your 30s. So what uh, happened when and this was a natural progression. Uh, I started taking my product. I did it first thing in the morning when I woke up because you got to take it on an empty stomach. That's the best way to get the maximum absorption. And I'm all about efficacy and optimizing. So that's the best way of getting what you need out of the formula. And and then I take my second serving in the afternoon. Uh, and what I noticed is that I wasn't hungry anymore. And not only was I not hungry, but when I ate, all that happened was it made me tired. It didn't, if I didn't need to, why eat? Okay.
mhm.
So I eat 1 meal a day primarily.
And
Okay.
is it usually dinner or what
It's
timing
usually
wise when is
dinner.
it? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's dinner.
And
Mhm.
what does that look like? Is that how many calories, what types of foods?
All right. So I don't have to focus on protein because it's already in my formula. And if you have, if you're of average size and weight, one serving should be equivalent to what you get out of what you need in a maybe a third of a day or a quarter of a day. So by taking two servings, you've got half your day's requirement of amino acids met. Um, now, uh, the thing is that it's different, and I've learned this over time. So at first, I always recommended one serving in the morning, one in the afternoon. Try to fit the afternoon one in between lunch and dinner, closer to dinner, so that the stomach is empty and you drink it down and it gets absorbed efficiently. Uh, the reason you don't get hungry is really interesting is because hunger really comes from pica, and pica is your body's need for something. What pica really uh, is when people are starving, and they'll eat anything. They'll eat soil. They'll eat whatever, trying to take care of their nutritional needs.
Hmm.
And so a lot of people that are overweight are really malnourished because they're not eating the right things, and they still have certain deficiencies. This has been really increased dramatically by the modern production methods of food. Look, back in the 70s, I was a hippie, and I was into alternative this, alternative that, uh, you know, alternative energy, alternatives in diet and nutrition. And we already knew back in the 70s that the soils back then already were depleted of the micronutrients that are in the soil.
Hmm.
Okay. So I've been taking trace minerals, for example, I don't know, for over 40 maybe years. So trace minerals are really essential. And if you don't have them, your body doesn't function completely right. And depends on which one. Magnesium is one of the largest essential minerals. I have a lot of it in my formula because most people are deficient in it. And so magnesium is used to make cells to make a lot of different metabolites that are made by the body or used by the body. So magnesium is essential, critical. Uh, so, I kind of, all my knowledge has kind of brought me to the point where I know what to do. My dinner really is irrelevant. I now take, the equivalent of four servings of the formula, which is not identical to what I originally developed. What's on the commercial marketplace. I make it privately for my private member group, and I'm looking at all different formulations to overcome anabolic resistance and to address certain needs that individuals have that are struggling with something or the other.
Hmm.
So I take four times of what I normally had recommended. You shouldn't take it of the original formula because it's got too many highly bioactive substances, a certain type of selenium that's in there, the bioactive B12 and B9, et cetera. So you shouldn't take more than two servings of that. But I have another product which is currently not in the market, which is just the macronutrient side of that formula. So it only has the amino acids, the medium chain triglycerides, and the complex carbohydrates, and then it has a few cofactors, but they're not really that elaborate. So those I take together. I've developed different ratios. The key to humanizing the essential amino acid is figuring out how the body uses each and every one of them and come up with the ideal ratios, the amounts, so that you don't take too much of one because it does something that may not be the good thing in your body. You take the ideal amount. So that's what I've been trying to approach. I knew right away that it was a better alternative than natural protein,
Mm-hmm.
aside from the digestive issues and the absorption issues. Uh, I mean, people started to flourish when they took the formula. So I don't need to eat during the day at all. I just take my formula and I'll eat at dinner time, and it really doesn't matter what I eat. I mean, I've tried all diets because, I have this private member group and I help people with all different types of issues. And, so I've tried all the modern diets, even, before I would test out the Atkins diet when that was a fad, or the keto diet so I've done the vegan and vegetarian, and I like that because, I hate eating tortured meat, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all the industrial meat and even fish, et cetera, the fish are stressed out, they give them all these hormones and antibiotics and crap to keep them healthy until they harvest them. And it's no different with the animals. It just keeps getting compounded, the issues with food supply. Now they're too lazy to open up the plastic bags, and the animals are eating the plastic bags to get to the food, and so they have microplastics in them.
Right.
And
Right.
we're eating those. We get it in the water from the plastic bottles. So uh, at the end, we're challenged in this day and age with a really bad food supply. So if we can kind of gravitate towards something that's a lot healthier, that has exactly what we need, and we don't have to torture animals or, contaminate as many plants as they do. Now with glyphosate, they just got the waiver. You can use glyphosate and not sue the company because, they need it. They have to have it. It's got to, our food supply is at risk. We won't get enough food. And so they convince the regulators to, oh, you can't sue. If you get cancer from this, you can't sue. And it's already been proven. Glyphosate causes cancer. All these lawsuits are trying to get away from them. So they say, oh, yeah, well, we'll keep making glyphosate and you won't, if you don't use it, all these GMO plants will die out, and you won't
Dang.
have your fruit supply. In the meantime, most of our plants are already GMO because of cross pollination.
Mm-hmm.
These are the problems that the food industry has created for us in their zeal, yes, to make, quicker yields, to make bigger yields, and all these wonderful things they said. Okay. But at the end, it turned out to be not that great for humans. Okay. So the glyphosate they put on the plants are now fed to the animals. Those plants, the grains are fed to the animals, and the animals now have glyphosate. They've done studies on grass fed beef versus, the conventional industrial beef. And there's big differences in the glyphosate amount. Actually, the grass fed are practically zilch, unless there was po- you know, pollination that went on with something that they were eating,
Mm-hmm.
and they got certain characteristics. I mean, the glyphosate does, since it's sprayed, it does go from field to field, et cetera. But at the end, they had a lot less. So that's why everybody's going for grass fed. And I don't blame them. I
Mm-hmm.
do as well. Um, and if I eat something that may have glyphosate, like I like drinking a glass of beer every now and then, and all beer, there's a couple of guys that went around the country and went to all the small distilleries and the big ones. They all have glyphosate in them, you know.
Hmm.
And, basically, aside from the digestive issues that they cause, there's all kinds of things we haven't discovered yet that will be caused by them. Um, so again, these are industries that are extremely powerful, that have done all kinds of really bad things for us knowingly. I mean, they knew about glyphosate years and years ago. It's one of the reasons that Bayer bought Monsanto, because they were being hit with all these lawsuits. Okay. And now Bayer managed to convince the world that you have to have glyphosate. And the European Commission, the U.S. Regulatory systems, they all protected them and gave them free range to keep doing it. Uh, at the end, what I'm trying to come up with, not just with my formulas, but philosophically, and this is where AI comes in. I love AI. Okay, I think AI is basically opening the door for the next great leap for humanity. Of course, provided that you know some assholes out there don't use it for bad things. They're already doing it. They're using it to hack and to do all kinds of scams. And look at social media; it's all full of AI generated content, which is not true. Uh, but AI has tremendous potential, and it can lead us to a point. A lot of young people are afraid of it, etc. But the one thing that I discovered throughout my career is that all people have talents, innate talents. Uh, some talents are passed on through epigenetics. Okay, I sound like my father probably because I got some of his epigenetics, and I know from certain experiences that he had that I got that. It's a natural thing that happens in nature that helps a species to survive. You basically pass on your knowledge of experience to the next generation, and they'll be afraid of something. Why? Because their forefathers at some point experienced that, and it was very dangerous, and therefore we have this instinct. So that's epigenetics comes in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So look, the abilities that we have uh, are mostly untapped. Okay, we're groomed practically to make money. Okay, we're lured with here's the carrot. You know, drop everything. You got to make money. And look, I've met a lot of really wealthy people in my day, and others that are not so fortunate. And they really don't die any happier than people that have led a good full life, that aren't
Mm-hmm.
rich. And uh, it's more about using those talents, using your creativity uh, in order to with AI facilitate coming up with something that's extremely unique or really beneficial. And I think there's a lot that needs to be discovered that way. One of the problems we have is industry has been suppressing uh, next generations of technology. They've been buying them up and putting them on the shelf. They've been killing them, killing people. They've been doing all kinds of things over the years to get rid of anything that is disruptive. And that's a problem. Look, I'm 100% a capitalist in the sense that I believe in freedom. I believe in all the things that are good. That's why I came to America. Look, I was born in Colombia. I lived in Europe, and I had a choice of where to live. And I came to America. Why? Because it provided the laws, the structure for each man is created equal, one would hope that that would be respected. And, also that, you're not frivolously persecuted,
Mm-hmm.
or because of one thing or the other. Uh, you know, the unfortunate thing is we've given too much power to corporations, and the corporations have taken the liberty that they have the freedom to do anything they want, even if it's bad for people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they claim that this is their obligation to create wealth for their shareholders, but that's bullshit. That's just an excuse. It's a perpetuation of whatever they're doing. And it may have been good at one point, but it's obsolete. And we could make a generational leap, and they're not letting anybody do it. Why? Because they're making too much money, and they would be out of the equation, or they'd be making a lot less. And that's why they go after it.
Right. Man, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, Martin. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, I guess I'm starting to do podcasts. You're the first one official podcast that I do.
I'm
I have,
honored.
yeah, no, listen, and I actually, I had the opportunity to go on with, an agent that will get me to the top 10. But those are, interested in other things. They don't, even if they wanted to hear my stuff, I want to help small guys like you get out there and get the word, because this is something, a lot more people should learn about. So my product can be purchased at leapxx.com. That's LEAPXX.com. And LEAP used to stand for Live, Evolve, and Prosper, but I had to change the acronym. Somebody pointed out that it was a, the
The
Star
Star
Wars or
Trek.
Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
So so I came up with uh, Live Energized and Prosper.
Nice.
Uh, um, and that's what the formula does. It helps, helps build energy and resilience and strength and endurance. And that's what you need to prosper.
Well, thank you so much again, Martin. This is very, very interesting. I'm excited to check out your product, your website, and looking forward to catching up with you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Jeff, for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.